Bitcoin Season 2 is brought to you by Arch Network, the platform building bridgeless apps on Bitcoin. More on Arch later on the show. Let's kick it off. Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2. We are recording this live from Las Vegas. Writer's Room is actually a room in Las Vegas today. Me and Colin, I think one of our first, maybe our second in-person Writer's Room.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what better place to do it than the Fear and Loathing Sin City, Las Vegas?
Yeah, Sin City. The script writes itself.
Yeah, it kind of does. Bitcoiner comes into Vegas, has regret for not going balls deep into meme coins during the meme coin bull market, loses all of his money at craps or blackjack.
There is a lot of pent-up gambling energy in the room, which is being released. I'm happy to say that there doesn't seem to be anything structurally different about there being, whatever grifts that are present at a normal Bitcoin conference. Those exist today. The real defining thing is, and we can riff on this, the suits. The suits are here. We call them Suitcoiners. How do you feel about this? You're wearing a suit too.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm throwing blood on one of my own. It's inevitable, I think. I do think that there's some interesting arguments maybe to be made about Bitcoin diverging from its cypherpunk roots to a more corporate and finance kind of focused contingent. But that really has been one of the big things with like all the Bitcoin treasury strategies. And there have been a number of talks on that. And, we've got like the sitting vice president at this thing speaking. I mean, we're no longer early. I'm sorry if it hurts you to hear that. It's just true. Bitcoin's $2 trillion market cap, $100,000 a coin.
Yeah. Peter Schiff is here again.
He loves it.
He loves it. He totally owns. He actually owns Bitcoin. A lot of people don't realize this, but he sold an NFT collection, an inscription collection on Bitcoin, and got paid in Bitcoin for it.
So that's actually a legendary. He's not only pissing off the Bitcoin maximalist with the gold stuff, but he's also doing shit coins on Bitcoin. Yeah. And what a way to accumulate Bitcoin wealth by selling inscriptions.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't have been on my bingo card for someone who has been one of the primary fudsters of Bitcoin, at least in theory or in performance. And his foray into Bitcoin is using NFTs.
Yeah, and this particular NFT was a very boomerified NFT. It just had the look and feel of a boomer. The NFTs, the inscriptions, were a hand holding a gold bar like this, almost like a trophy or something. And they're all the same, very like unimpressive. And he sold them for like 0.01 or 0.02 Bitcoin each at the in the middle of 2023. So it's funny because like a lot of people think, oh, he doesn't own any Bitcoin. His son Spencer's the one who owns the Bitcoin.
Right.
Well, Peter Schiff sold items for Bitcoin recently and probably made more Bitcoin than most people will ever have.
The inscription collection with the figures hoisting up gold bars is really funny. It reminds me of like the Fox News gold commercials that would come on. Like would be at my grandparents, I'd be watching Fox, and it would be.
Were those Peter Schiff's like commercials too?
Probably? I mean, they probably were. Like the Buffalo, gold coins, and some guy on there being like, "Gold is skyrocketing while U.S. debt is at an all-time high. Are you financially secure?"
Some things never change. It's funny because all those gold bugs finally caved and they're coming to the Bitcoin conference, or at least we're minting Neo gold bugs because the TradFi guys are here. It's the whole. I haven't watched a lot of the talks, but every single one is some Bitcoin treasury company.
Yeah,
it's just it is a crowded trade.
It's the investment thesis du jour.
Yeah,
but so what's your read on the conference so far? Like vibe check in terms of. We have all of these. We really have a huge tent here. You have Peter Schiff coming. Like I said, you got JD Vance giving a talk. You have all of these suits. This is in terms of diversity of attendees, in terms of their walks of life and their careers and whatnot. To me, it seems like the most diverse I've ever seen. But what's your vibe check on the conference so
It's super diverse. The programming is fantastic. No matter really where you come from in Bitcoin, there's hardcore open source, heterodox, Bitcoin hater, crypto agnostic. there's a track for you. Programming is absolutely fantastic. The conference is very legitimized right now. Obviously, we have a bunch of politicians. I don't think it comes off as a niche conference anymore. It's a pretty mainstream branded one, as you would expect at $2 trillion market cap. I will just say candidly, I hate Las Vegas as a town. It's very good to run a conference in. It's just not my type of city. It's like a giant evil maze of a mall. It's a very bewildering, disorienting town.
Yeah, you have to shoulder your way through a bunch of people walking around like zombies between these slot machines, and getting anywhere is like just navigating a labyrinth of depravity and gambling addiction.
Yeah. And again, that's a bit of it's like a cliche that we walk through multiple casinos to get into the conference. The biggest casino of all.
The biggest Ponzi.
I talk about this on this podcast, and we've talked about, I'm critical of Bitcoin discourse, which is overemphasizing the corporatization of Bitcoin. This is inevitable, but it really does like kind of exhaust me personally to see so many suits saying the exact same 10 things. It's almost like we traded the Citadel aspiring like hardcore pleb meat eating maxi, like that is now really not as represented. It is just people talking about the basis trade. Things like hurdle rate are the new terms du jour. And that feels very weird to me. There's a lot of dollar sycophantism as well, which surprises me that we have that.
Well, like the stablecoin guys.
Yeah. I love a good stablecoin. I don't really feel strongly about it, nor do I think that's
I think that's fair.
How about you? I'll throw it back to you.
I mean, I think you nailed it about the programming. Shout out to Craig.
Craig from programming.
Yeah, Craig from programming at BTC Inc. and all of the people who were involved in it. I mean, like you said, I'm looking at the conference site right now. There are 2, 4, 6. There are 7 stages, ranging everything from like the massive Nakamoto stage to the deep VIP vault, which is like their whale area thing. But I mean, if there's a topic in Bitcoin that you wanted to learn more about or go to a talk on, you can find it at this conference. And they did an amazing job building that out. Mm-hmm. And I also think I'll return to that in a second because it'll pivot into our next discussion about shitcoins at the Bitcoin conference. But I think that ultimately David Bailey is either a visionary or a very lucky man, because scheduling this event out, I assume like a year or even longer ago, for Las Vegas, Bitcoin being at all-time highs in Vegas. You know, I don't really like Vegas that much either for all the reasons that we just described. There's some great things about it. Food's good. There's a lot of really cool entertainment that's not just seedy entertainment, but it is just a pit of depravity and sin, you know? And so the opulence is kind of disgusting to a point. But that being said, if you're going to host a Bitcoin conference with Bitcoin at 110K, I don't think you could have chosen a better venue.
And you can see it's going to be here for a while. The city just works. As fellow event conference organizers, we can see that you can scale this event significantly.
And there's a lot of stuff for people to do. It's easy for a lot of people to get into. There are a lot of direct flights from all around the U.S. And you heard it here first, or you probably might have heard it from the conference organizers themselves by the time we publish this, but they will be doing it in Vegas again next year.
Yeah.
That's what I heard from some of the team. And they might be going back to Nashville after that. They said they will be going back to Nashville at some point. That would be my preference as a native Nashvilleian.
Yeah, I like Nashville, Tennessee.
But anyway, I think overall, the conference has been a huge success. You know, it was kind of annoying with JD Vance's talk, the Secret Service stuff, but you can't avoid that. Check-in's been pretty smooth. There haven't been really crazy lines to get in outside of the Secret Service checks. And overall, like, venue's good. It's really nice to be able to just like walk from your hotel room to the conference without having to get baked in the 100-degree heat. You could show up, you could land, get to your hotel and never see the sun the entire conference. Yeah, which there's something kind of amazing and also scary about that.
Yes.
But yeah, just to reemphasize that, super good conference, one of the best I've been to. It's kind of like the Bonnaroo of Bitcoin now. It's like a completely different thing, and it's crazy.
It's not Coachella.
No,
it's not, but
it's not Coachella.
It's like the Isle of, maybe more of like the UK, like an Isle of Man. Or,
yeah, for sure. And I was at Bitcoin Magazine in 2019 when they did the first Bitcoin conference, and it was 2,000 people in a parking garage in San Francisco. So seeing where it is now, like that doesn't just happen overnight. So huge props to the team. And that kind of segues into the next thing, which is a lot of the crying online about shitcoins at the Bitcoin conference.
Where have you been? It's always been this way.
Yeah, it's always been this way. But also, I feel like the analogy I use is like if you're taking a walk through Central Park and you see like a heap of trash under one of the trees, but the rest of the park is pristine. Or, there's like a homeless dude just rubbing one out under a tree or something. Like, and then that just completely taints your view of Central Park, which is otherwise beautiful and clean. And that's how I kind of feel about it, because at the end of the day, like 95% of anything at this conference is Bitcoin focused. And they did an amazing job of making sure that any topic is on the docket. And most of the companies here are Bitcoin companies. Now, obviously, there are some shitcoin things that ended up weaseling their way in. But I don't know, man. It's just
really
like,
hard to draw the line. As much as people will probably clip this and be like, they're shitcoin apologetic. Like, a good metric is that, I'll just even point out, like, the SWI Foundation, right? They're a different blockchain, but they have a wrapped Bitcoin product, which they're pushing.
Right.
So, like, where do you draw the line? We talk about wrapped Bitcoin as a serious component of the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Right.
So
it extends Bitcoin's utility. It's not Bitcoin because then
also, like, we're platforming all the custodians shilling ETFs, which are wrapped Bitcoin. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point, actually. And I think the difference being that they're not using another blockchain. Honestly, I think that's like kind of like boils down the argument. I know you know that, but I feel like that's what people would say. But, to your point, going back to the corporatization thing and the TradFiization of Bitcoin, like fundamentally to some Bitcoiners, those things aren't different. But then the lines even get blurrier when you talk about something like inscriptions or ordinals, because,
you can put shitcoins on Bitcoin now too, and people love them and they buy booths.
Yeah, and it helps bankroll this conference, and it allows BTC Inc. to do a bunch of other crazy things with the conference programming and with getting certain speakers here. I get like why people don't like. I get why some people would not like some of these companies being represented, because there are some ones that are. I mean, I saw, and this isn't even their fault because they didn't give them a booth, but like I saw some people shilling a meme coin going into the conference the other day. But that's not something that Bitcoin Magazine or BTC Inc. can really control that well. You can't just tell people if they buy a pass that they can't come.
You don't get a 30,000 person conference without a decent amount of shenanigans.
Yeah, and without compromising on some of those things.
Yeah,
but
if you want the Puritan experience, you can go to a smaller conference where they can be a lot more scrutinous and selective of who's there. But, this is the biggest tent. This is the big tent conference with a very loose heuristic for what constitutes a valid sponsor and representation of the conference.
Yeah, 100%. So shitcoins at Bitcoin 2025, there aren't that many. If like you're focusing on that versus all of the other amazing Bitcoin content, you're missing out.
You're missing the slots for the giant hotels, you might say. Let me tell you about one of the most slept on opportunities in crypto. Arch is building fast, composable DeFi apps on Bitcoin. Arch apps tap into the OG blockchain with by far the most liquidity and best brand in crypto. I've known the team for over a year. The tech they're building is solid, and they are racing towards mainnet. There's dexes like Saturn, meme coins on funkybit.fun, instant loans on Cha-Ching, and so much more. Plus, they're rewarding testnet users, so join me in trying out Arch while it's still early. I want to hear you talk about JD Vance, because he did his talk. He did the opening talk yesterday, and I didn't listen to it. You said you caught some moments for it.
So there are a few quotes that I have here and a few takeaways. He said crypto and blockchain a lot. That made a lot of maxis mad, which is like kind of like, being mad at your boomer father for saying Bitcoin miners solve complex math problems when they're really just guessing numbers trillions of times a second. It's like, this is the way they understand it. This is the way they talk. They're not orange pilled carnivore, maxis.
He hasn't been fully indoctrinated yet.
No, but he's saying some things that are hitting a lot of the right buttons. I think, like, there's this one tweet from Autism Capital, of course, JD Vance. The People's Republic of China doesn't like Bitcoin. We should be asking ourselves, why is that? Why is our biggest adversary such an opponent to Bitcoin? If the CCP is leaning away from Bitcoin, then maybe the US should be leaning into Bitcoin. This leads into something that he said at a roundtable, a private discussion before the conference with some of the conference organizers and some guests. He kind of obliquely mentioned this during his talk, from what I can tell, but he was asked a question by Matthew Pines about whether or not he sees Bitcoin as a promising kind of neutral reserve asset as the yuan in China ends up gaining market share. It's becoming more of a reserve currency for the countries in Africa and around the world who are adopting it. And this is coming from Brandon Green of Bitcoin Magazine. He was telling me about this. He said he kind of stopped and paused and thought about it and didn't just give a canned answer and was really thinking. And he basically said, maybe there's a world where we don't want the dollar to be the dominant reserve currency. This is the Triffin dilemma. If our currency is the currency for settlement for international trade, then we have a dollar that is stronger than it otherwise might be. And that ends up being detrimental to American industry onshore manufacturing. This is like the story of the last few decades in the US. But we also don't want, he said, a strong yuan that creates other problems. And so then he said, having something like Bitcoin as a neutral, nation state, or a neutral, currency free of any nation state control could actually be beneficial to the US in the long term if it ends up adopting it, if we end up getting a strategic Bitcoin reserve, things like that. So, whether or not you like government stacking Bitcoin is another question, but I just think that we need to pause and reflect on the fact that the sitting vice president is saying something like that in private conversations.
This is wild because it's not him reading off a script. Yeah. This is not him reading a prompter as Trump did last year, and Trump said the magic words, but they were prepared.
Yeah.
This is the sitting vice president in power with a highly nuanced take, which demonstrates he understands deeply the mechanics of global currency and global trade and an economy. I think he understands it better than most Bitcoiners who even talk about this all the time.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, he's the sitting vice president of the U.S. He has an eye on things that most people don't even know are going on. So it's been, I would say, like, don't want to simp for the guy too much, but it's just really a refreshing change of pace from, the last, you could honestly argue, since Bitcoin was created 16 years ago. Like, the last 16 years have just kind of been nothing but attack from officials and people in power in the U.S. against Bitcoin. The Biden administration with Choke Point 2.0 and Elizabeth Warren through her.
Well, there's another thing JD Vance explicitly said.
Is like Choke Point 2.0 is dead and is never coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the prior administration tried to kneecap the entire crypto industry by debanking them. Yet Elizabeth Warren pushing through this bill, the anti-money laundering act, which would have made it impossible for people to run a node unless they had a money services business license. And so you had all of these things these attempts that didn't materialize to kneecap Bitcoin. And now we have an administration that, are they going to make Bitcoin the legal tender in the US? And are they going to maybe establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know how that's going to play out. But at the end of the day, they're much less hostile and actually favorable towards Bitcoin.
Yeah. Just to talk about Bitcoin and refer to it as a neutral money in the context of the yuan and the dollar is huge.
Yeah.
That's how I've always viewed it. A lot of Bitcoiners, I think, try to kind of shoehorn it into it competing directly against the dollar, because Bitcoiners have to be reductionist. They can't understand multipolar world dynamics. It has to be this dualist, us, them fighting something. But no, the world is complex, and Bitcoin fits in as this neutral money. Clearly, certain people in the in power currently get it. JD Vance is one of them.
And he owns Bitcoin.
He's a
Bitcoiner.
That's the heuristic to tell if someone's a Bitcoiner in this day and age.
That's what my buddy CK used to work at Bitcoin Magazine. Shout out to the Human Rights Foundation. He says everyone who owns Bitcoin is a Bitcoiner. You know, there are shades of evangelicalism with any sort of technology or creed or what have you. You know, like certain people are hardcore Catholics and certain people are just kind of like...
Some unnamed people are hardcore Catholics.
Yeah.
We're not naming names, though.
Not naming names. May not be a developer who dunked an entire DiGiorno pizza in hydrogen peroxide. But anyway, there are people who practice things more or less than others. And if you own Bitcoin, then you can call yourself a Bitcoiner. You might not be a Bitcoin maxi, as many aren't, but...
we could go with more takes. I do have another take, which is I did frankly kind of expect we're in Las Vegas, Sin City, Bitcoin's at all-time high, over 100K. You can do whatever you want in this town. The worst, it just feels that I've seen people be a little over exuberant, and playing craps or something.
Yeah, usually you haven't seen that.
No, it seems pretty tame, which I like as a family man. Like I like that. I think Bitcoin could toss a little bit of we could do away with the counterculture and embrace the subversive culture without having to bring in all of the debaucherous stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I haven't seen very many Bitcoiners hitting the slots or gambling or anything at all. I mean, I don't know what's going on at night. I've been kind of calling it a early night.
We've been too busy doing the most noble work, which is podcasting. So I was on the main stage giving a good case for why podcasters and influencers are a very important part of how Bitcoin discourse is shaped.
Yeah. For better or for worse, as we covered recently in one of your pieces about the opportune drama, the developers versus podcasters.
Yeah. But I kind of manufactured that, dichotomy a bit, but it really does feel like that. And opportune filter debate is very played out by now.
Yeah, it is very played out. A few other takes or highlights from the conference, if you can call them that. The guys at Jack Dorsey's Block, gave an interesting presentation where they claimed that they have earned 9.7% APR on their routing nodes.
Yeah, what is going on with this?
So this is super interesting. They had this awesome chart that showed returns of yield-bearing products, like if you held bonds, if you had your cash in a interest-bearing savings account, and I think there were a few other things in there. And the Lightning routing node that they or have operated, or have multiple nodes, I would assume, beat all of those. Now, a few things on that. So for those of you who don't know how the Lightning Network works, you set up bi-directional payment channels with people. So like if I wanted to set up a channel with Charlie, we would set up a Lightning channel and we could send each other Bitcoin. But there's this inbound liquidity problem if you want to end up routing to other people, because Lightning channels are only bi-directional. So if like I wanted to send money to our other colleague, Will, but I didn't have a channel with him, but Charlie did, I would send Bitcoin to Charlie and then he would send Bitcoin to Will. But the way the Lightning Network works is, you basically have a shared custody over a multi-sig wallet. And so if Charlie and I deposit one Bitcoin into this and are sending it to each other, like I only have half of that for liquidity on my side. So if I'm trying to send Bitcoin to Will through Charlie, he also has the same problem where he only has a certain amount of liquidity on his side versus Will. So if he has like 0.4 Bitcoin on his end of the channel with Will, and I'm trying to send Will 0.5 Bitcoin, that wouldn't be possible because he doesn't have enough of the liquidity on his side of the channel with Will to get it to him. All that being said, Lightning routes and the payment channel infrastructure is very cumbersome. And so it requires a lot of deft management of the liquidity on your Lightning nodes. And all that being said, if you do it right, you can be like Block, where you make a decent amount of money routing payments because you end up getting a fee for routing that payment. But one thing I would say is like a lot of people were cheering this on and saying how great it is. And it is super cool.
It's really cool. We love to see it. This is clear empirical demonstration. Lightning has a lot of use and you can make money from it.
Yeah.
Like these are good validation.
But they're also doing it professionally. And I have known I have known plebs who have set up routing nodes to earn yield on their Bitcoin. and they've done a good job with it. But then suddenly they have a payment channel open with like a big exchange or a Lightning service provider, and these channels can be closed unilaterally whenever you want. And sometimes they will have a channel closed with a big Lightning service provider, and fees are super high, and like all of the routing income that they earned for that month is just gone because they had to. The channel closes and the payment is settled on chain. They have to pay like, you know, if it's high fees, like 50 sats for VByte or more, and then they lose all
and also
of their
maybe,
routing income.
And maybe this reveals my ignorance about it, but like these are enthusiasts who are very technically inclined, who spend a lot of time and effort basically trying to compete with enterprise architecture for the same yield. And I ask, well, you know, this is not like there's this undertones of, oh yeah, everyone can just spin up their own Lightning node and earn this yield on their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't see it. I think this is an enterprise LSP game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's kind of how Lightning has scaled to this point and will continue to do so. The channel management stuff is so difficult. And honestly, just running a Bitcoin node for most people is hard enough. Running a Lightning node is several magnitudes harder. The complexity is greater. And even if you're running, you know, a non-custodial Lightning wallet, that's also kind of cumbersome. A lot of these Lightning wallets are custodial and they go through these LSPs. I think that that's kind of fine though. Like this is your spending account for Bitcoin. It's not like you're using Lightning for your entire stack, right?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's great. It's a wonderful piece of innovative architecture, and it materially improves the Bitcoin network in a very great way. Is it this magic last mile payments with no trade-offs that every pleb can use fully self-sovereignly? I don't know. But it certainly does very good for larger enterprise stuff, which is, I would make the statement, is better than existing counterparties and centralized infrastructure. Yeah,
for sure. And concurrent with this presentation, or maybe it was in another announcement, Block, which operates Square, the payment, the point of sale system.
Yeah.
They're integrating Lightning payments now.
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually took it this long to get to
I kind of am too.
Yeah.
I think that
we should have led with this.
I think that goes to, right. And I think for part of the reason why it took them so long to do it is just the fact that, I mean, Square is it Block or Square is public?
Square is public.
Yeah, like it's a public company. Getting the fact that they did it at all, I think, is pretty amazing. There's so much that you have to do in terms of compliance, and there are a lot of people and decision makers you have to convince that this is a good idea. And TBD if it'll actually end up getting meaningfully adopted. The Bitcoin conference did set a Guinness Book of World Records for the most Bitcoin payments in one day. Their goal was 4,000. They got to 4,001. So we barely crossed the threshold there, but they did it.
I don't know if this is, I'm so happy. I love to see it, but also this like 4,000 payments with a 30,000 person attendee conference. And it is like literally the merchant point of sale of choice being pushed by everybody. We still barely got 4,000. I did not make a single Bitcoin transaction yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was telling you before this, I think if I were at home doing my normal day-to-day things, I would probably have made a Bitcoin transaction or two yesterday. But because I was at the conference on my feed all day, not on my computer, I didn't make a Bitcoin transaction. It's the great irony of that.
Yeah,
situation.
For sure. And, you know, to be fair to them, it's like 10% of attendees made, I mean, if you assume that no one did it twice, which a lot of people probably did, made a Bitcoin transaction. So probably not as much as you would have thought, but that was another little interesting thing. That's one thing I'll say about the BTC Inc. team. They always try to push just a little bit farther and are thinking about different ways that they can drive engagement at these things. It's
because that's the David Bailey.
That is the David Bailey
steering that ship, and
he got that
so
dog
good at it. He's got that dog. I've seen another one is there's a new crop of celebrities this year. It's a bit of there's been you might say a jubilee of crypto scammers who feel that they can perhaps have all their past sins forgiven.
Who in particular?
I met Tech Lead in the hallway. He's a major YouTuber who had a very, very notorious shitcoin rug. We've got Steve Aoki took a picture with Sailor in that big
that's who I was trying to figure out who that was, because American Bitcoin had some reception and they had a photo of it. It was really funny because it was like they tried to find as many famous people and billionaires as possible. Like Brian Johnson, the like never die guy, was in there.
I guess he's like a major platform for Bitcoin now, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. And there was another like pretty famous billionaire in there as well. And it's just like, how many famous people can we pack into this picture?
I would ask how many of those people have made a Bitcoin transaction in the past 30 days.
Almost certainly none of them.
Yeah. That doesn't make me super enthusiastic about the new face of Bitcoin, but
no.
Yeah.
One other talking point, we're just kind of rifling through things. The Bitcoin skull is here. So
yeah. Cool.
So for those of you who don't know, Greenpeace taking money from Chris Larson of XRP, the notorious perpetual ICO shitcoin. Actually, I don't know if you can. I think you can continually buy from them.
They're always selling it to you.
Yeah, they're always selling it to you.
You can see they're selling their treasury to you.
But Greenpeace funded this initiative called Stop the Code, or was it? Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Yeah. They were hating on proof of work. They're saying, let's change proof of work to proof of stake.
Code.
Change the code, yeah.
Called Change the Code. And they were lobbying or like pushing to get Bitcoin changed from proof of work to proof of stake. And they commissioned this artist to create this like crazy skull. Just Google Bitcoin skull and you'll find it. This like skull with these wires coming out of it, symbolizing, e-waste with mining. And then also had these
giant smokestacks on top.
Giant exhaust stacks out top, which is really funny because those are used in nuclear power plants and that's literally just steam.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is not the dirty form of energy that you think it is. But anyway, the BTC Inc. team ended up buying the skull and presenting it at the conference. And then Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse from XRP had a mea culpa moment on Twitter. And it honestly is one of the most amazing things. I missed this part. So this was amazing. They both went up there and were like, "Oh, we were doing that at a time because we thought it was important, but now that Bitcoin is mined majority with renewables, like the future is bright." And like Brad Garlinghouse said something to the tune of, this is not verbatim, but it's pretty close. Like, it's time to put our differences aside us. And then it's just Bitcoiners in the replies being like, you funded an astroturfing campaign to try to change people's minds about proof of work.
Yeah.
You can go fuck yourself.
You manufactured this. This is all on you. We're going to parade the skull around because it's objectively really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite little mini narratives and little feathers in our cap and victories.
And another W for everything is good for Bitcoin. This is like Bitcoin.
This is like the best example of
stuff.
That.
Yeah. One low point, and I don't want to necessarily close on this, but I do have to run. I don't know how this is allowed or why the Venetian even allowed this to happen, but the Bitcoin conference set up, I guess it's a sponsorship tier where different companies could come into your room and drop swag off. And this so I'm not going to name the company, but I walked in yesterday and there was a tote bag or a drawstream bag sitting next to my door with swag in it. And a bunch of other people have complained about this as well. Like, there are a handful of companies doing it, but basically Bitcoin Magazine partnered with the Venetian and it was a deal where, they allowed these people to go and they gave them, like a skeleton key card and they could just go and scan into rooms and drop stuff. Terrible move. Like, absolutely terrible move. I honestly...
Big L.
A big L. Like, I love the team at BTC Inc., but I don't know why they thought that was even remotely a good idea.
That sounds like something... I'm just speculating. It sounds like somebody who's like a conference organizer for other conferences who's hired to be like, enhance the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody with half a brain who knows like the Bitcoin culture says that is...
Yeah, there are a lot of Bitcoiners who mask themselves coming to conferences because they're worried about OPSEC. The fact that you think it's okay to just let strangers walk into their room to, even if they're just dropping something off. So like a huge security vulnerability and super intrusive. So I am two things. I don't know why.
Conspiracy theorists prove right again.
Yeah, right. I don't know why BTC Inc. thought that was a good idea. I'm also kind of appalled that the Venetian allows that to happen.
Yes.
That seems, and I think there's a way to do that that's not as intrusive. Like if you really want to do that, then you pre-plan it so that conference attendees have the swag waiting for them when they check
like
into
little
their
chocolates
room.
on the pillow.
Yeah, exactly. You just let the housekeeping drop it off or something. But doing it in the middle of the day and people just like come in, there's a bag that they didn't see when they left. Anyway. That's the one big L. I don't even care about the shit coins, but that's another thing entirely.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice plucking that out. We can leave. Let's end this on a neutral to high note. Again, I want to circle back on the programming. It is really special that we, there's all these criticisms. We have some criticisms of this is the biggest Bitcoin conference. The folks behind it and the key figures who make this conference the experience that it is have done a very good job. Think about like another way this conference could have looked if another group were in charge. Imagine like a Brad Garlinghouse in charge. That would be such a shitty conference. I love David Bailey. You need someone who's the ebullient, delusional cheerleader at the helm. And then other people like Craig from programming to come out and having done tons of legwork to make quality programming. That's a unique and special thing. Also, JD Vance and the other representatives of the state don't just show up. You have to go procure them and invite them. And whatever magic happens behind the scenes to deliver those people to our stages is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's go finish day 2 of the conference.
Day 3 for us.
Oh my gosh.
You weren't at industry day, but that's good.
Yeah. If you made it in this podcast, Colin and I are on the beginning of day 3 psyching up. This is the brief moment we have before we get super busy again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for tuning in, y'all. We'll be back with normal writer's room and normal podcasting schedule next week. But if you missed out on Bitcoin 2025, I don't know, come next year.
You can get a free ticket if you scan the QR code. Actually, you'll have like 1 hour by the time this episode drops to scan it.
Yeah.
So literally, if you're listening to this right as it drops, go look online for the QR code.
Go claim your free ticket.
Yeah. So, cheers.